Welcome to our session on Learning Outcome 4, the experience of family members caring for a family member with an intellectual disability. This afternoon, you're going to see what it's like from a parent's perspective when caring for a child or an adult with additional needs within the home. This session aims to develop your understanding of the effects of caring for a person with an intellectual disability on close and extended family members. This session relates to Learning Outcome 4, as I've mentioned, and supports you to recognise the effects of caring for a person with an intellectual disability on close and extended family members, and your knowledge of this will be assessed in Assignment 1. So I'm now going to introduce you to a film on an elderly parent caring for two adults, his son and daughter, with an intellectual disability. What I want you to take note of are the challenges that this man faces. Look at the stress, the isolation, the challenges in accessing services, the difficulties and I suppose dangers of caring for your own child with an intellectual disability when it comes to potential outbursts and challenging behaviors. And I just want you to develop a sense of empathy around this. So look at it from the adult's perspective, and also look at the changing dynamic as this man gets older. And I want you to also consider what's going to happen to his adult children when he no longer may be around, or he may no longer be able, physically able to take care of them. Okay, so this is definitely a worthwhile video.
Real isn't how you are made, said the Skin Horse. It's a thing that happens to you when a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with him, but really loves you, that you become real.
Real.
I've looked after Rita and Johnny since 1974, so that's 41 years I've been a full-time carer.
Big rabbit ears and lovely, what are these things here called? Whiskers.
They are forever young in many ways.
And your eyes drop out.
They're loving, kind, and they have a childlike attitude towards things, and they're happy and they enjoy life and being around Dad.
At least.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, there's a chatter. Hi, John.
I'm 80 next year, and now I've got to go in for this aorta artery repair. And as an old man, things could go wrong.
Once you are real, you can't become unreal again. It lasts for always. The rabbit sighed. He thought it would be a long time before his magic called real happened to him.
Daddy got in hospital. Really, really miss him. Yeah. I'm worried. I won't come home. Didn't know you there, Johnny. He'll be all right. We come home afterwards. John. He'll be right. He love you.
So get up about 5:30 and come down and have the best cup of tea of the day, and just waiting for Rita and Johnny to emerge.
Good morning, Daddy.
Morning, darling. How are you?
I need a bit of sleep.
You had a big sleep last
Yeah.
night? Are you tired, were you? Oh, you're lovely, aren't you? I love you so much. Rita's loving and warm and kind and gentle. Sit down.
Daddy, I need breakfast.
Do you need breakfast? What would you like for breakfast, love?
Toast.
You like toast?
Yeah.
What would you like on it? Rita's 49 in February.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter. She was born with microcephaly, a severe condition caused by a small head development, which reduced her brain size and her brain development.
Yeah, the market yesterday.
Wholemeal bread.
Bread.
Just want her to be as contented as she is now forever. And I hope that when I die that she'll get, you know, care and she'll be secure and that she won't be taken advantage of. I do fear for, because she's such a loving person, she could easily be taken advantage of. Morning, Johnny. What do you want for breakfast this morning?
Toast.
Toast?
Toast.
It's Friday today, isn't it?
Mm.
You go to the day service today, don't you? Johnny is 46 and he was born with the same condition. Noodles, hey? Not too tired this morning?
No.
Your eyes are nice and blue, aren't they?
Mm.
I love you, Johnny. You're lovely, aren't you? You got a lovely smile this morning. I always like it when you got a smile on your face. Your big blue eyes. And Johnny's been a handful. He's schizophrenic. He's got type 2 diabetes. He's insulin dependent. He's got a thyroid problem. But other than that, he's all right. 3, you count, Johnny. 4, 5, 6. That's it. You don't mind taking pills, do you? And you're very good with your injection. It must be horrible getting it all the time, but you're very brave, aren't you? Here you go.
Chicken milk.
We always get green one because it's what?
Chum milk.
Good girl, trim milk, that's right. He understands much more than he can verbally express himself. You know, if I tell him things, he understands okay, you know. Sometimes he'll say, I can't understand, I can't do it, you know, but I say rubbish, you know. He needs to have the shower set for him. He needs to help with putting his clothes on. Oh, you're very good, Johnny.
Sure.
When he's psychiatrically distressed, his toileting goes to pot, and that will often end up halfway down the passageway. Sometimes Johnny wets the bed and we have to change the sheets. And we'll change them from black to nice pretty ones. He like that. The care Johnny needs is that of probably a 3 or 4-year-old, and he loves his bed and he loves cuddly toys on his bed, and he likes me to tuck him in at night, which might seem strange for a 48-year-old man, but it's what he loves and makes him happy is important.
At the door now, showing all the rooms. I like this one. This is my favourite doll. Yeah. Wedding dress. Precious. Blonde. The lace. Andrew. A couple of times, yeah. Really, really hot. Now. 1, 2.
Enough? I just want to be a good father. Well, you know, I just get back to, you know, my basic philosophy of just taking it each day as it comes, and just, you know, used to get Marita and Johnny's breakfast, and then to get their lunch, and then to get them dressed, and then to get them to the day service, and then to come home, and then to do the things around the house, and prepare a meal at night, and get them to sleep.
Safe now? Safe now?
You just break it up into a sequence of events. If you look at the whole lot together, it seems impossible, but if you just take one task as it comes, it's not so big. I was a Kiwi joker, an ex-seaman, a railwayman, a steel worker. And when Marita was born, I went up there and I was chased away, and I said, we don't want men here. New Zealand was a very male-dominated society. I went to the pub and celebrated in the traditional Kiwi way. And my father went looking for me and said, you better get up to the Mater Hospital, there's something wrong with that kid of yours. The expert said she was a microcephalic, I mean, that could have been something from outer space. I had no idea about what a microcephalic was. And I mean, small brain. We went to a genetist, and they said that the chances of having another microcephalic were almost zilch. And Johnny came along, the same hospital, the same nurses, the same specialist, another microcephalic. You've both got to carry a recessive gene to have a child like this. It was just bad luck that we met each other carrying that recessive gene but not knowing we carried it. Mary could not accept him. And during that last few months, Johnny was at home. She obviously couldn't cope. And, you know, she eventually got very bad schizophrenia. She come home from group therapy and they must have told her that the best thing for her was to leave. And so she got out of bed and gave me a kiss on the cheek and said, "I'm going." And I thought she was going to the dairy, and she went. Rita was crying for Mum, and she was 3.5. I made a friend of Johnny Walker. I needed it. And I was drinking and I used to get morbid and sad. Rita was in a home, Johnny was in a home. I was going to go back to sea and jump ship in South America. I couldn't see any hope. And I picked Marita up from this IHC home and she come running out, "My daddy, my daddy, my daddy." That was it. That I made a goal then to just give up the drink. This inescapable bond that you have with your children that I always felt from Rita and Johnny. Yeah, it's like an umbilical cord, isn't it? You know, you're linked as one. In 1974, Norman Kirk's government brought in the Domestic Purposes Benefit, and it gave single parents the chance to keep their children. And I read about it in the newspaper and I thought, gee, I'll apply. I was the first male in New Zealand to apply for it. Marita was in Mangere Hospital and Johnny was fostered. I brought Marita home first and got used to her. And then I had Johnny home and got used to her. In Mangere Hospital, I said, "Oh, Marita's friendly with this little Maori chap. Would you mind taking him?" I said, "Well, that's a bit of a big ask, and I've got 2 already." And Tony lived with us for 8 years, and then he ended up in Carrylands. Having Johnny and Marita has taught me one thing, and that is love. Love can beat everything. In 4 days, I'm having some major surgery in the AAA repair, the aorta artery aneurysm. It's obviously dangerous. They tell you that you can die. Like many parents of the disabled, that's my greatest fear. Marita loses a house, she loses a room, she loses a cat, she loses me, she loses everything that her life revolves around. And Johnny, when I go, nobody will be able to sense what Johnny's needs are like I can. I mean, it's taken me a lifetime to learn. I want Johnny to be safe. That's the biggest worry because, you know, the aggression and people not understanding him.
You feel worried, Johnny? Gonna worry your dad, Johnny?
Mm-hmm.
He will come home, Johnny.
Come home.
Don't worry, Johnny. Dad, he come home afterwards and I'm after you. Your dad be right, Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
You can have your father, John.
lucky.
Thank you.
Yeah, Johnny, so thank you very much. Thank you. Enjoy. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a retired drunkard, so I don't go to bars very often, but I believe that Johnny and Marita should be able to enjoy them the same as anybody else. And Johnny, obviously, that's his second glass. He'd have 10 if we let him, which I wouldn't mind, but it won't do much for the sugar level, will it? And you really enjoy going into a bar, don't you? And having a wine?
Yeah, a wine.
And meeting people?
Yeah, I go meeting people.
Go for a nice meal sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes.
You like to get dressed up, don't you, and put lipstick on?
Yeah, dressed up.
Yes, we do just things that, you know, everybody else would do and assimilate as closely as possible to the rest of the community. And by doing that, the community hopefully will treat them just as they would anybody else. It's an extremely important part of the upbringing of people with disabilities. And it makes them believe that they're the same as everybody else. The same aspirations and the same hopes, same dreams. What's your dreams, Marita? What would you like to do best of all?
My dream, gold wedding dress. All my friends are partying.
There you are, out you go. Thank you very much. Thank you, bye. Okay, Marita, can you give us a hand with the muscles,
Okay,
please?
I'm coming now.
Excuse me. See the mussels? We're doing
Mussels?
them. You can get would you like to get an onion out of the cupboard? What's the other thing that goes with it? Garlic?
Where's garlic?
Can you find it?
Garlic too, Dad?
Yeah, bring it over, love. And where's that bok choy that I bought today?
Yeah. Pot choy is in the fridge.
Hey, Marita's in charge.
Oh, the chart. Oh, the shit.
How you going there, sweetie pie?
Get in there.
Getting there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes?
And,
I just get a brown too.
Yeah, hang on, love. What?
Ma.
Tomorrow, yeah.
What are you tomorrow,
Your
Dad?
eyes are going... He gets the thing called tardive dyskinesia, and it's the result of he gets this injection for his schizophrenia, and it affects the muscles in the back of his eyes, and his eyes get tense, and sometimes they'll lift up, and all you can see is the white of his eyes. For Johnny, the advent of schizophrenia was the most difficult. I jokingly call it the visitation of the black dog. He comes out with his lip drops slightly, and there's a sort of a stillness in his eyes, and he has this glare. And I know that I've got to be very careful with him. There's always that chance of lashing out, and I try to preempt it all the time by sensing his behaviour. And if he does get angry, I've got to physically get him in a corner so that he can't get out. But then that's always dangerous to me because one time at the bank he bit my ear and bit my nose and there was blood pouring out of me. There's always the risk to my being, but I'd rather that risk than hit somebody else and end up with a prosecution against him.
Puppy.
And it's very hard to control yourself sometimes. It takes a lot of willpower to stop your reaction. So you can be very sensitive. Don't raise the pitch of your voice too much. Just try and direct him to speak quietly, look that way, or take a deep breath, or distract his thinking. Anyway, Johnny, what's all this for? I guarantee it. So it should be between 4 and 8. It'll be about...
What's that mean, blood means, Dad?
5,
What's it say?
4, 3, 2, 1. Push it in and hold it for 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Forks and knife, forks.
I'm good, Jenny.
You want chili, John?
No, I ain't good.
Yeah, I'll go now.
There you are. Good morning, bro.
Good morning, how you going?
Hey, I've been watching you to see the Pope, are you?
Is it a Pope? Yeah.
But no, buy that if you want anything. Hold on, Johnny. What about this?
2, and talk.
Keeps things simple.
Yeah. See you, Johnny.
Take your time, Johnny, and we'll go and see Ivy and Pete, okay? Just don't barge through here. Just wait till people walk, okay? That's good. Yeah, Mum Rita, you go and see Ivy.
Hi, good morning, Ivy. And good morning, Pete. How are you?
Morning.
Just up today. Glad I put on water, please, Ivy. I'm going to get home straight away. I put in the bath.
Good.
And freshen again, too.
And you like the smell of the freesias.
The freesias, my favourite flowers.
Wait, John, wait. Traffic everywhere.
Yeah.
You right?
Yep.
Seems to be an inability to really support parents at home. We see nobody, you know, and there's nobody ever comes here and says, you know, what could we do to make life better?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
There
The
you
water
go.
drops 5 degrees when you come from that side.
That side to this side,
I think I've been fortunate that whenever I've had to confront a situation, I've used common sense and I knew that Marita and Johnny would need more love and more protection and more expressions of my love than a normal person would have. For Johnny, the ideal place really would be Spectrum Care in Hamilton, where he normally goes for respite. But for 6 weeks, that's $12,000, so I can't afford it. There'll be enough money in the account to pay for 6 weeks at Idea Services, which is $7,200.
You just wait there, Johnny.
We put some cucumber
We're going to plant them in the corner here.
in the corner.
That's it. We're next to the zucchinis. And you know tomorrow morning you're going to go and stay at Richmond Street for a couple of days.
Couple of days.
You looking forward to it?
Yeah, on couple of days.
So you know why Dad's going to the hospital, don't you?
Yeah.
And get all better?
Yeah, to me, you better.
And you know when I come out of hospital,
Yeah.
Rita, what are you going to do? You're going to help me, aren't you?
Yeah, help you.
And you're going to do the dishes,
Dishes.
help me
and
with eating,
Eating.
and we're going to get the bus down to Thames to get stuff.
You get us stuff.
You looking forward to helping me at home?
Yep. Okay.
Push!
Like them. Oh, like you. See, I'm strong like you.
I'm 79 at the couple of months' times, and you've got to be having a few aches and pains when you're an old fella.
I'm boogered.
There was something on the radio about old people's home. Rita and Johnny said to me, "Oh, Daddy, you can't go in old people's home because you're not old." They think I'm young. I'm going to be the ever young person. I wish it would happen, but it ain't. They never see me as old. And I must admit, I don't get too much chance of being old.
Now this rope goes in the boat, doesn't it?
Yeah, in the boat.
And then this holds onto the net,
Yeah, the net.
and then the other bit of rope goes on the other end of the net,
Yeah.
and you hold it.
Yes. And you, 2 hands, Sean.
I know sometimes I feel just knackered, you know, and Johnny demands. And that's very difficult sometimes when you just want 5 minutes to your time. You just have to give yourself. There's just no option.
Nothing today.
No, then good.
All the fish are gone somewhere, John.
Okay, Dad.
Yeah, where are the fish gone to, John?
Under the water.
Hey,
Okay.
Net.
If I never come out of hospital from this operation, I've got 2 trustees, Lila, that's coming down tomorrow, and a nephew. And I've just said in my will that they would sell everything and put all the money in the public trust from Rita and Johnny, because you couldn't trust, anybody else. And they would try and find the best place that was available for Rita and Johnny at the time.
give us your plate, love. You visited a fellow
Yeah, no,
today, but I don't
You
think
saw
Barry,
a guy in a dress.
I don't think Barry would want to scare him. or he's
We're an amazing family, and Cliff is an absolutely loyal and very good friend.
When Cliff asked me to be a trustee in the event of his demise, I didn't give it a second thought. What do you think about this operation business?
It comes out. Hi, Dad.
Yeah. What's going to come out of Dad?
He can after him.
Yeah, he'll come out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've really worried at times about Cliff's own sort of mental health and his happiness, especially with at the times when John's been really unwell. I mean, at times I've said to Cliff, it's okay for your sake and for Marita's sake. You want Johnny to be cared for in another way. He's been absolutely clear that the best place for Johnny is with him.
I dread the thought of when I die, not for the sake of dying, but, you know, she would miss me something dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to know that you've given them incredible skills to cope with the changing world too. I mean, you've changed so many things over the years, and they've travelled, they've kind of been exposed to other people, and there's always the Auckland whānau.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd make a wonderful trustee for the kids and look after them well and make sure that they had a decent and a stimulating life.
Yeah.
And a safe life.
See you, matey.
Goodbye.
Bye. Good luck on
Okay,
Sunday or
yeah.
Monday.
Take care.
Yeah.
Driving home.
See you, Lila.
See? Disneyland. That's a monkey on your shoulder. That's in Gibraltar. Look, who's that there?
Where there?
Eh? 4 of us there, wasn't there? Mm-hmm. Tony, you, Johnny, Marita and Dad. And Tony went, and now there's 3 of us, isn't there?
I'm interested to know what you think of that video. And I suppose for me, what stood out is that this man is almost 80. He's facing heart surgery. He's caring for 2 adults with intellectual disabilities. Johnny has combined and challenging difficulties with schizophrenia as well. And his resilience as a dad is shown. And I suppose his routine is you take one task at a time. He embraced the children when, the choice had to be made. As he said himself, his initial reaction was to head off to sea and leave them in care. But when his daughter came up age 3, saying, hi, daddy, he just went with that. He was overwhelmed with love for them. His greatest fear is who's going to take care of them once he passes. And also, how are they going to be cared for? As he can see himself, he has this unique relationship with Johnny and his daughter. But with Johnny, I think more so, in my, I suppose, experience, when he goes into residential care, at the end of this situation, carers and medics and healthcare workers, etc., won't be able to read him the same way as his dad is reading him. So, and nor would they have the time, nor will they have the facilities. So it's very likely that Johnny will end up, more medicated than he is. And perhaps the dad is right. He is better being cared for at home, but there will come a time that won't happen for him. So we can see there, it's similar to what New Directions are promoting, ordinary lives in ordinary places for people with intellectual disabilities, but provide the supports. Now, this dad has seen things through, I suppose, to the final bit. He's got his will made, his trustees lined up, and they are to pick the best care, residential care for the adult children, when he eventually passes. So I do agree that there's a lot of challenge around it. And I think that in general, if you have a child with a disability or an intellectual disability and you're the parent, you will worry about who's going to care for your child and how will they be cared for after you pass. So that's part of your assignment 1. And I will be discussing that question with you. So I want you to look at the effect of intellectual disability, physical disability on the carers, on the close carers, the close family like the dad, and then look at the extended family. So he had a nephew and he has a close family friend. So what's the effect? And it's a big responsibility to be entrusted with the decisions that are going to affect somebody's life going forward. And as a parent or as the primary carer, whether you're a guardian or a foster parent or the actual parent, obviously you have to be very careful about the person that you select to take charge of your child. So here then, I want you to consider the vision statement of the Irish carers strategy on page 2, and I have it on the next slide. Do you think this vision is important? And I want you to document just in a message, you can email me or put it on the discussion forum. Do you think that this is achievable? So the National Care Society recognized, supported, and empowered. That's what they want. Okay. So the vision statement is carers will be recognized and respected as key care partners. They will be supported to maintain their own health and well-being and to care with confidence. And they will be empowered to participate as fully as possible in economic and social life. So they will be supported by having the resources that they need to care for the people that they are caring for. They will be supported to maintain their own health and well-being through mindfulness, respite care, and a skill set to care with confidence. So maybe that's additional training, and also supports from OT, speech and language therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, medical staff where relevant. And they will be empowered to participate as fully as possible in economic and social life. So because you're caring for a person with an intellectual or physical disability doesn't mean that you shouldn't have flexible working hours to allow you to work in the economy, in the broader economy. And also, I suppose it suits some families better if they're able to avail of carers allowance, or if they're able to work part-time, etc., have carers coming in, have healthcare workers coming in, have home health coming in. And also that you have resources and facilities to support you to have an active social life. That doesn't necessarily mean going out on a Saturday night, but it might mean that you are free to have a coffee morning or go visit friends or whatever. And the full National Care Strategy is available on the link below, and I'll pop that into the resources on Moodle as well. When we look at the profile of Irish carers, we can see this is from the census 2011. 187,112 people identified themselves as carers. That's 4.1% of the population. Of these, 80,891, 43%, provide up to 2 hours of care per day. 29,255, which is 16%, provide between 2 and 4 hours of care per day. And 39,982, which is 21%, provide full-time care, i.e. 43 hours or more per week. 15,175% of carers, which is 8%, provide care for 24 hours a day. So they're caring for the person all of the time. And what we must remember then or ask ourselves is, if you're caring for somebody 24 hours a day, when are you caring for yourself? When is there an opportunity for self-care? 73,999 are males, while 114,113 are female. The number of male carers has increased by 20% since 2006. And the dominant age cohorts in the caring population are 40 to 49 years. So either you could be caring for a parent or a child, I would suggest, with those figures. As was pointed out in the last video, the demographic has changed. As that man pointed out, when he was a father in New Zealand, it was the woman's role. It was very macho type society, traditional roles, etc. Now, as societies in general and globally, there is a change away from it just being female dominated, even though the figures would still suggest that it's more females than males that are involved in carers. And then, as a group, 64% of carers are women, 48% of carers are between the ages of 45 and 64. And what I would ask you to consider there is, at 64, are you really, no, depending on the person, of course, at 64, it might be time for one to start slowing down a little bit themselves. Interestingly, 32% of carers work full-time as well as having the caring role. 4 in 10 carers are the sole carer for the person that they looked after. Half of all carers cared for someone in the same household. So it could be a parent, a child, a spouse. 47% spent more than 15 hours per week providing care, while 21% spent more than 57 hours per week providing care, which is a long time, which is more than a full-time job. 4 in 10 carers look after a parent or a parent-in-law, and overall, 7% of carers were looking after a child aged 15 years or under, and over half, 53%, were looking after someone aged 75 or over. And then another finding in the census 2011, children and young people with caring responsibilities. The key findings were that 4,244 carers are aged between the ages of 15 and 19. And remember, this is leaving cert time as well. And 4,228 carers are under the age of 15 years, while 1,838 carers are aged under 10 years. That's a lot of responsibility for children and young people in relation to caring, when they themselves should be, I suppose, developing their independence, exploring their own lives, you know, creating foundations. As we say, you give the children roots and then you give them wings, but are they being given their wings and their independence if they have the responsibility of caring? I'm not suggesting for a second that it's not good to have empathy and have responsibility within your family, but at the same time, I would suggest that an adult caring role for a child is just a step too far. And then if we look at the Irish longitudinal study on aging, the key findings were that 80% of the main caregivers to people over the age of 50 years were themselves 50 years and over. Approximately 1 in 5 of these were over the age of 65, which is fine if you have good health. It's fine if you're fit. But what if you yourself also have a care need that's not been met? They were predominantly the spouse of the person being cared for. So ill health, infirmity, general aging can be a factor. And I mean, I suppose cancer, diabetes, all of the usual type illnesses. So in the national goals for carers, there are 4 national goals. And carers may have a wide range of needs depending on their circumstances, i.e. age, gender, health status, employment status, the kind of care that they're providing. How stressful is it? How difficult is it? How complex is it? How physically tasking is it? Is it just popping in to help somebody out for a couple of hours a week? Or are you there from morning till night without any supports for yourself? The availability of other services and supports like home health, healthcare workers coming in, maybe the public health nurse visiting, and access to resources. So moving on to the 4 national goals for carers. These goals address the priority areas that have been identified by carers and the organizations that represent them, and the priority areas that have been identified in carers' strategies from other jurisdictions. Because if we haven't got something set up ourselves, we look to close jurisdictions to see what works well. So the 4 national goals for carers are to recognize the value and the contributions of carers and promote their inclusion in decisions relating to the person that they are caring for. The second goal is support carers to manage their physical, mental, and emotional health and well-being. And 3, support carers to care with confidence through the provision of adequate information, training, services, and supports. And empower carers to participate as fully as possible in economic and social life. Because the carers for family members, or if you're a hired carer, you provide so much support to the people that need it the most. And by supporting people to remain in their own homes, it has a massive economic benefit to the government as well. You know, it's cost effective. And of course, then the national goals are supporting the quality supports for carers to enable them to care in a meaningful way without it having a detrimental effect on their own lives. And based on our video on Johnny and Marita and your own experiences in the workplace and within the home, we know this to be true. The effects of caring for a person with an intellectual disability on close and extended family members include the following. For families caring for a disabled family member, it may increase stress, take a toll on their own mental and physical health. Because even imagine mental health, you have the stress aspects, but on your physical health, trying to lift somebody, support somebody physically, if you yourself are not fit yourself. So even trying to lift somebody, even the very skills and training around manual handling, if that doesn't happen, if you hurt your back, how are you going to support somebody else? It also makes it difficult to find appropriate and affordable childcare, perhaps, if you have a child with an additional need. And I would suggest then that if you're in that position, that you approach your local childcare centre if your child is in the right age group. So from age 2 years, 6 months to 5.5, and avail of access and inclusion model supports. As well as that, if you are on a lower income and have a combined family income of up to €60,000, you can get the National Childcare Scheme and avail of that. And you can apply for that through gov.ie. So it's ncs.gov.ie. Obviously, all of this has a knock-on effect on your decisions about work, about taking up places in education and training, perhaps having additional children. Because if you have a child with an intellectual or physical disability and you're their main carer, you may not decide to increase your family size because of the stresses and strains of being a carer already. And also, if you have a reliance on public support, support from services, support from assessment services, you might find that that's difficult. And it might be impossible almost to get the entitlements that you should be getting for your person under the Disability Act 2005. So when we look closely at our figures show that a substantial 327 million hours of care are provided by unpaid carers in Ireland each year. Most of these carers are female and they're aged between 40 and 59 years, married in general, and live in rural areas. The majority of carers, around 58%, provide between 1 and 14 hours of care per week, and approximately 1/5 of carers, that's 21%, so slightly over 1/5, provide care for 43 hours or more on a weekly basis. And almost 60% of the carers are reported to be in employment. So in reality, you're talking about double jobbing to provide care for an extended family member or a close family member that needs support, which is challenging, and particularly with COVID restrictions. So when we look at family caregiving and intellectual disability, the majority of people with intellectual disabilities are cared for at home by family members. And while family caregiving for a person with an intellectual disability can be a very enriching and a positive experience, much of the published literature focuses on the demands and pressures often associated with caring for a person with intellectual disability. It has been well documented that parents and carers of children with intellectual and developmental disabilities experience higher levels of stress and parenting than parents of children without intellectual or developmental disabilities. So we're talking about our typical versus our atypical children and the stresses that are associated with it. So when we move to physical health and mental health issues, the literature also suggests that mothers of children with intellectual disability are much more likely to experience higher levels of anxiety and depression than mothers of children without an intellectual disability. The evidence also suggests that parents with children with intellectual disabilities are at an increased risk of poor physical health. An Irish study of parents of children with intellectual disability reported more physical health problems, such as sleep disturbances, headaches, gastrointestinal problems, and respiratory infection episodes than parents without intellectual disabilities. Financial strain and isolation. Families of children with intellectual disabilities may also experience other problems, such as increased financial strain. Secondary analysis of data from the mother-child research in the UK found that families supporting a child with intellectual disability were significantly more economically disadvantaged when compared with families supporting a child who did not have an intellectual disability. Due to their caregiving responsibilities, families are further strained by parents' limited available time to engage in employment and within their community, which leads and can lead to feelings of isolation and social isolation. And then when we move to well-being and concerns of older parents and also attitudes, Sheeran and Todd 2000 reported that in general, parents of children with intellectual disability experienced lower self-esteem and faced uncertainty about the future. Older parents in particular tend to be concerned and worried about the well-being of their son or daughter and the uncertainty of their future caregiving arrangements. Adding to the stress, families of children with intellectual disabilities may experience negative attitudes from professionals and schools. When we're looking at parental and carer stress, higher levels of stress experienced by parents of children with intellectual disability may be attributable to a range of factors, including the type of disability or disorder, including challenging behaviors, or also the severity of the disability. Ecas and Whitman 2010 undertook a study with 119 American mothers of children and young adults with ASD, autism spectrum disorder, and found that the greater the severity of the ASD symptoms, the greater the prevalence of depression among mothers as well as being evidence of poorer psychological well-being and life satisfaction. And if we tease that out a little bit, it makes sense that if you have a child or a young person that you're caring for that is on the higher level of ASD and they have more challenging behaviors, you are going to be more stressed. You might be physically in danger, similar to Johnny's situation in the video. There will be concerns about your well-being as well as the well-being of the child and the needs of the child. And the attitude can be that the public attitude can be that challenging behavior is frowned upon. You only have to think of supermarkets and children, having meltdowns in supermarkets for what looks like sweets or whatever it might be. And that's why the likes of Lidl, Aldi and Dunn's Super Value have ASD friendly evenings where they lower the tone of the lights and they lower the sounds in the shop to make it welcoming as an environment for people with ASD. So contributing factors to parental stress levels include mental health problems experienced by the person with intellectual disability may also be a contributing factor to the parental stress levels. A recent Irish study of 75 family carers of adults with an intellectual disability living at home examined the impact of caring for an adult with an intellectual disability and psychopathological comorbidities, which means that they're co-concurring, that they're together. The study reported that carers of people with intellectual disability who also had psychiatric comorbidities had significantly higher levels of stress and psychological distress than carers of adults who only had intellectual disabilities, which would lead, I suppose, to an understanding that challenging behavior and, I suppose, outbursts of perhaps behaviors that might lead to danger for the carers obviously have or lead to a greater level of stress and psychological distress amongst carers. If you're in danger and you're in a fight or flight mode, but you have to stay as a carer, you are going to be under pressure and you are going to be sad. And you do need supports from the community and from extended and close family. Contributing factors to parental stress levels also include the presence of other health problems, often associated with intellectual disabilities, such as epilepsy. And these also increase carer burden levels. As we saw with Johnny, he had intellectual disability, he was schizophrenic, and he also was a diabetic. So there was a whole combination of things that had to be supported. Prolonged carer stress can have other significant consequences for families and the person with intellectual disability, leading to an increased risk of marital problems and family dysfunction. Because if you're worn out as a parent caring for your child or young person with an intellectual disability, do you have time for your spouse and the other members of your family? And studies have shown that families' experience of stressors is also dependent on life stages and childhood development. It might be easier as a parent to care for a younger child because you know where they are, you can cater for them. As they become teenagers and you yourself are getting older, it's harder to physically deal with somebody that's as big as yourself. And then if you're an aged parent dealing with your 46 or 48-year-old, like we saw in the video, it's a very different dynamic. And obviously, the life course stage that you're at is going to affect how you cope and also your own physical and mental health. So the family carers have released a report on the experiences of caring for a person with intellectual disability. And that link will also be in the resources on Moodle, and it might be worth a look for yourselves. So the questions that I would like you to answer, and this will form part of your assignment 1. The first section is, I want you to outline the advantages and disadvantages of both the medical and social model of supports. We covered this in the webinar, and in addition, I released resources on Moodle for you in relation to this. I want you to look back at the first recording and look at the range of terms used to label people with intellectual disability, outlining both appropriate and inappropriate terminology. And I want you to refer to the National Disability Authority and the National Council for Special Education to support you with this. And the fourth section that you have to consider is the impact of caring for a person with intellectual disability on those who provide support. Example, the family members. So this will be based on the recording this evening, as well as the video, and as well as the discussion that we had on our webinar. So thank you very much for your attention. And in our next session, we will look at the role of the frontline staff.